What a day. What a weekend. What a period of time we are currently living in. And ask yourself, what must have occurred that you see me wearing the shirt that I am wearing here today? You have to ask yourself, what could possibly prompt that? I mean, I've said all along, all of last year, there were 3 candidates our show vetted as the only 3 candidates we considered voting for. Donald Trump was on the list. I said all along, if he's the nominee, I will support him. I said all along, we desperately have to win this election. And given where things are heading in the country, right? These are all things I've said from the very beginning. I've been consistent about the entire time. So how did we get to a place now where I've got this shirt on the show and there is a Trump sign in my yard? What, pardon the pun, must have triggered such a reaction? I'll get to that here in just a few minutes. I'm Steve Deace. He is Todd Erzin. He is Aaron McIntyre. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours discussing the near-miss heard round the world. And we were a few centimeters away from seeing news and seeing things that none of us want to see and none of us want to be a part of. And so we think it requires quite the conversation here, given the magnitude of this moment, to look at it both personally, spiritually. We are, after all, a show whose prime directive is a biblical worldview, and also politically. And we are going to be doing that over the course of the next 2 hours. Courtesy of our friends over at Relief Factor. If you are struggling with chronic pain and you're like, I'll never get back to being as mobile and active as I used to be, well, there's no guarantees here, but over the years, over 1 million people have tried the 3-week quick start with Relief Factor, and over 70% of them saw such great results that they've stuck around with Relief Factor full time. So if you want to see, if you don't see great results with this drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs, but they got tired of prescribing drugs that mask the pain, they wanted to go after the inflammation in the joints that is the likely culprit here causing that chronic pain. That's what Relief Factor does. What do you got to lose to see if you don't see a difference in your pain threshold in 3 weeks or less? Take the 3-week quick start for just $20 at relieffactor.com. Again, that is relieffactor.com. Well, let's get underway as we always do. Even though this will not be a typical show, let's begin it as we typically do with Aaron's rundown of what happened while we were away.
What happened while we were away brought to you by pregnancy and labor. No, not that type of pregnancy. This kind.
Of course, it's Trump is a Nazi time again.
Let's deal with Hitler, okay?
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that. I mean, that is Mussolini, Hitler-like language.
Trump's affinity for Hitler was always covered under an umbrella of his stupidity.
Echoing Hitler's words.
Listen to this. Well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right. Echoing the hateful rhetoric of Adolf Hitler.
It echoes Hitler.
That's the kind of language Hitler used in Mein Kampf.
About vermin and Hitler and Mussolini.
That's a horrifying clip. That's a fascist clip.
Just going full on Hitler.
From Hitler's Germany.
We just need to say, for the record, that the term vermin was really effectively used by Adolf Hitler.
Echo dictators like Hitler.
With language evoking authoritarian figures like Adolf Hitler and
Adolf Hitler.
Donald Trump parroted the autocratic language of Adolf Hitler.
Talk about the brilliance of Hitler's generals.
Correct.
General Kelly, yes.
So what does delivery look like and sound like for this type of pregnancy? It looks and sounds a lot like this.
Take a look at what happened.
No one is surprised when a pregnant woman goes into labor, yet the sights and sounds of labor are shocking nonetheless. No one should be surprised that what happened over the weekend in Pennsylvania actually happened. The sights and sounds are shocking nonetheless. It produced this photograph for the history books, taken by Evan Vucci of the Associated Press. One man was killed in the attempt on Trump's life, a husband and father named Corey Comparator. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro addressed the murder on Sunday.
I just spoke to Corey's wife and Corey's 2 daughters. Corey was a girl dad Corey was a firefighter. Corey went to church every Sunday. Corey loved his community. And most especially, Corey loved his family. Corey was an avid supporter of the former president and was so excited to be there last night with him in the community. I asked Corey's wife if it would be okay for me to share that we spoke. She said yes. She also asked that I share with all of you that Corey died a hero. That Corey dove on his family to protect them last night at this rally. Corey was the very best of us. May his memory be a blessing.
The assassin is a 20-year-old Pennsylvania native named Thomas Matthew Crooks. Crooks was a registered Republican but had donated to a progressive political action committee a few years ago. Joe Biden addressed the nation from the Oval Office last night.
So tonight, I'm asking every American to recommit to make America what it is to think about.
And that's what happened while we were away.
Aaron's montage brought to you by My Patriot Supply. As you continue to see, well, that could never happen here. As you continue to cross Rubicons to the point that crossing the Rubicon has kind of become the 2024 cliche, gentlemen, has it not? Okay. Yeah, as our friend and colleague Daniel Horowitz, I saw him post on Twitter this morning, or X, pardon me, keep forgetting to call it that. It's only July 15th. Make sure you're ready for the next Rubicon that gets crossed, for the next that could never happen here, that happens here. Our friends at My Patriot Supply want to help you do that. They bring you self-reliance, which brings you peace of mind. If you don't have water filtration, you should. If you don't have a charged solar generator, you should. If you don't have emergency food on your shelf, get it now from My Patriot Supply. They've served millions of American families as the most trusted name in that could never happen here insurance. All right, get the 3-month best-selling emergency food kit. Save $200 right now when you go to preparewithdace.com. Each kit, 2,000 plus calories per day, lasts up to 25 years, and includes well over a dozen different meals and sides possibilities as well. And this includes breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks and snacks, the full 2,000 calories you need. At preparewithdace.com, again, save $200 and get free shipping at preparewithdace.com. So some of you may have heard, we decided to put forth an emergency podcast, a brief one, Saturday night with some of my immediate thoughts in the aftermath of what we had just witnessed as a nation with the near miss heard around the world. And I want to reiterate some of that, but also expand a little bit with another 48 hours to ponder. I had just gotten home from maybe the darkest film I've ever seen in a theater. And I'll talk about that on Pop Culture Tuesday tomorrow. To the point that the film is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But I'm so disturbed by its message and what it has that I've not reviewed the film. I've not promoted the film by name on purpose. And needless to say, that kind of put me in a mood when I walk into the house. I walk into the house, 5 minutes later, my phone starts going off. And then I turn on the news and I verify and see what was causing my phone to ignite, as it rarely does at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. And watching this play itself out, a switch got triggered in my brain. And you think when you do this full time for a living, you're well informed, but that can be your own arrogance. You think you are, you have your thumb on the pulse of what is occurring. But I watched the spirit of the age, and somehow a 20-year-old with no known formal training managed to shimmy up a wall. We've all seen these images by now. He manages, by the way, to select the building he's going to, and to shimmy up a wall and get shots off and scare a police officer who had confronted him into not firing on him. All these things occurred. And oh, by the way, we just so happen to find, guys, the one 20-year-old in America who apparently has no social media profile. How common in that is Gen Z, gentlemen? Not very. Okay. So we are going to discuss, my email inbox this week has been overloaded with former military telling me something smells rotten in the state of Denmark with this. So in today's overtime, we are going to bring on a former Marine sniper whose identity we will conceal from you. And we will discuss what he has to say based on his extensive experience doing things for the old red, white, and blue that this shooter tried to do against the red, white, and blue. We'll be doing that today in the overtime at blazetv.com/Deace if you want to subscribe today to make sure you don't miss it. But a switch just got triggered because here's the thing that can also happen to you when you do this every day. You can get bogged down in the details. And you can look at the lawfare. You can look at the E. Jean Carroll case, and yeah, she looks like a total nutter, okay? And you can look at it and say, yeah, but Trump's got a history as a philanderer. Maybe something happened there. Doesn't seem all that cut and dried. You can look at the documents case, and you can say, well, yeah, he admitted on tape. He did, that he took top secret or classified information he probably shouldn't have had. And yeah, it's BS that Biden and Pence were found to have done the same thing and didn't get charged. But again, he kind of steps on his own rakes, right? When you do this permanently for a job, you can get into the details, and it's important for us to get into the details. And you can get bogged down into kind of doing a P&L ledger with the details. And you've heard me say before, there's a reason why the saying is the devil is in the details. And then every now and then there's a moment where you're like, oh, I missed it. Something bigger has been going on this entire time. Not that those details are not important. And not when those details go bad that people should not be held accountable for them. But we do serve a God that's able to be both immanent and transcendent. Amen. He's able to both use problematic people for great things while also holding them accountable for their actions at the exact same time. He's not like us. He's got, walking and chewing gum. He's got that thing down to a science. Okay. And watching him stand up there in the most iconic moment this country has produced since 9/11. And nearly had his brain blown off. Literally turns his head by centimeters it's missed. And to stand up there, bloodied, people screaming around him, and to scream, fight, fight. And I have to tell you guys, for the first time since I first met Donald Trump when he was running for president and he was directly talking to me, I felt like for the first time he directly spoke to me. For the first time. And I remembered a conversation that I had with a high-level name in the Republican Party that you would all know. And he was deathly against when Ted Cruz was doing the Make DC Listen. He was deadly against the when Ted was doing that and shut Congress down over that, and the government shut down, and it wasn't going to work. And I said to this individual, and I won't name him because he's a good dude. We were just on opposite sides of this. And I said to him, brother, people feel like their backs are against the wall and they're lost and there's nowhere else to go. There may not be a plan here. It may not work, but they're just watching Ted just stand up there and someone's trying to do something. Meanwhile, you're the guy on the sidelines as they're getting pushed back to the cliff, to the corner. And you're the guy that's like, well, I wouldn't pick up dirt and throw it that way. Or did you see which way the wind was blowing? Or, there's a rock way over there. There's no time to strategize this thing out 4 levels. There's a proverbial gun to the head of the culture as we speak. And people just want someone to act. And it dawned on me, I had so many thoughts watching this transpire in the first hour or two. I have become that guy. I am that guy. Well, don't do this or don't do that, or well, you kind of brought it on yourself when you did this, or there's a better way to say it this way. I've become that guy. Meanwhile, here's a group of people, many of whom share our belief system, just sitting out there in rural Pennsylvania. Folks, Trump brings so many VIPs and family members up to that stage with him. I mean, it's not just Trump that was a near miss here. What almost could have occurred here is unfathomable. As Aaron told you, we already lost a great American who shielded his family from this act of terror. And it dawned on me, I've become that guy. And I'm missing the fight. Yeah, I said I'd vote for him, but I'm missing the fight. I've never seen in American history the system do what it is willing to do. And when I mean the system, I think we're dealing with forces here way beyond Republicans and Democrats and everything else. And I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow as well. The kind of stuff we're seeing, I've seen this before. Saw it making my movie. Just out in the open spiritual warfare. And I didn't have on my bingo card Donald Trump providing me a prophetic moment. Didn't have that on my bingo card. Nor did I have on my bingo card last April, nearly dying in a Rochester, New York hospital, and in the midst of 104-degree fevers, just having my fever suddenly break, walking 5 miles in a hospital corridor over the course of the next 4 hours, in the most prophetic moment of my life since my own salvation. Didn't have that on my bingo card either. Probably a whole lot of people didn't have. Kid born to a 15-year-old mom who can't tame his tongue, has a crude mouth at times, and makes cringy, homoerotic Lindsey Graham jokes, being someone with a massive platform to teach and preach the biblical worldview to America. Probably didn't have that on your bingo card. Probably didn't have the guy that almost divorced his wife of 25 years and walked away from his family. She almost did the same. Probably didn't have that guy doing the biblical worldview show on one of the largest platforms in America. Probably didn't have that either, right? That's probably wasn't on too many people's bingo cards.
I'd imagine no.
No. And when he looked at the camera and looked at the people, but it was into the camera and screamed, "Fight," I was like, I missed it. I missed the fight. The fight is here. And I'm just not wired to not be where the fight is. I'm more inclined to be this. So I had one nice woman say, "You're acting like a reactionary now, putting a Trump." I'm like, "You're damn right I am." And something tells me that if some men you could not overpower were trying to do bad things to you'd look for some reactionary men who would stop them real quick like. Thank goodness for some skinny teenagers post Pearl Harbor that as a reaction, in a reactionary way, went down and registered for the military. Jesus looks into the temple and sees they've turned it into a swap meet flea market, fashions a whip of cords, drives out the money changers, and turns over the temples. That's reactionary. The Maccabees find out Antiochus Epiphanes has slaughtered a pig on the Holy of Holies. They lead a revolt. Thank goodness for reactionary. I don't know what the rest of you think. We need a heck of a lot more reactionary men these days. The reactions are many, but the reactionaries are few. We could use a few more. So you're right, it is. Not the proxy I would have picked, not the messaging I would have preferred. And there's no way I'm not going to be frustrated on a regular basis. Hell, I might be frustrated by who the VP pick here is in about 15 minutes, okay? But this is where the fight is at. And I am just not wired, I was going to vote for him, but I'm kind of just, in limbo. I'm not. When he looked up and he screamed, "Fight," and I thought, yep, I missed it. This is the fight. And I think, frankly, when the Lord is plowing a field, his people have a responsibility to be at work in that field, including the contrarians who are like, we could do this better. Did I say to behave like sycophants? Is that what I said?
No.
Did I say to become a tribalistic cultist? Is that what I said?
No.
No. But I said to understand the signs of the times. This is the battlefield. And I need to be there. I need to be in that battle. I'm not wired to analyze it like it's a static, emotionless, technocratic process. I'm a culture warrior, and that's where the fight is, and that's my calling, and I need to be where the fight is. I've missed it. That's the fight. To the point, though, the spirit of the age will even try killing them. Some of it I still don't get. I still don't understand. I don't. And our personalities on many levels are just, trust me, I've had a lot more experience with Donald Trump than most of you have. They're just not going to mesh on a certain level. None of that matters, man. That's where I'm the guy on the side over here while Ted Cruz is leading a revolt over Obamacare. And I'm the guy on the side saying, well, I don't think it's going to work. I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't do it this way. I became that guy. No, this is the fight. He's right. Fight. That's the fight. That's where the fight is. It's not about him. It's about us. And I think when you're involved in this on a daily basis, sometimes when you walk up to the T at Augusta National, you're focused on the gallery because they're right in front of you and they're making noise and will they be quiet and the TV cameras are there, okay? But really, it's about the hole that's 350 yards away or 400 yards away. The hole is the goal. That's the focus. To get the ball in the hole. That's where the battle is. The battle's not over here. And the battle isn't about what clothes somebody's wearing or what soundbite they gave or whether, someone annoyed you. And that's not where the fight is. The fight is in front of you. And yeah, it triggered me in a good way. I need to be in that fight. That's where the fight is. I don't get some of it. I don't understand some of it. I don't. May never. But this is the battlefield the enemy has chosen. So guess what? You know what I like doing? Slaying the enemy. I like doing that. Amen? I enjoy it.
Indeed.
So instead of technocratically doing a play-by-play analysis over here, I'm going to get in the game. I'm going to get in the game. And that was the realization that I came to Saturday night. It's time for Steve to be in the fight. Not analyzing it, not discussing it, to be in it. Because this fight is very real. And all of the various differences we have with one another. I'm a subject matter expert on dysfunctional families. Born to a 15-year-old mom. I haven't had a meaningful conversation with my stepdad in 20 years. My biological doesn't even bother. I could go on and on, but it would violate confidences that I won't. Needless to say, I will tell you what I told my son recently, that the Lord used me to end generations of dysfunction in this family by His grace. And now you are the next Deace. You are going to be the one who's going to determine which direction we go from here as a family. There's that level of dysfunction in my background. Nevertheless, you're in the middle of a family argument and you may not even like each other. You maybe can't stand one another. But you're in the middle of a family argument and someone breaks into your home right in the middle of it. What's your reaction to that? Well, I'll get to you after I'm done arguing about what happened in Christmas 1989. No. Get out. These people have to go. This evil has to go. I'll get back to yelling at you later and making sure Cousin Eddie continues to stay in the trailer in the driveway and only comes on Christmas. We'll have that argument later, but these people have got to go now. You don't get to do that to us. And no, the spirit of the age does not get to do that to us. It does not. I long for the arguments and disappointments I had at times during the Trump presidency. Don't those things just seem tame? Could you imagine listening to our shows of 2017 and 2018 and listening to them now? Wouldn't we just laugh almost about the stuff we were talking about back then and acting like it was, Trump was just fawning over the North Korean premier. How many shows did I do where I lost my mind about that? Okay. I long to have those arguments now. Long for them. Those were the salad days. Okay? He's right. When he stood up, full of adrenaline, and looked into the crowd and screamed, "Fight! Fight!" A switch in my brain flipped. Yep. I've become the very technocrat I cannot stand. I've become almost Pharisaical, where I tithe on every ounce of dill, cumin, and spice, but I'm missing the signs of the times. I'm missing the spirit of what is occurring here. That does not mean there will not need to be accountability, correction. I'm going to tell you right now, you want me on your team, be careful with that, what you ask for, okay? Because I am never the go-along to get-along guy. I'm going to ask, I've got a question. Okay, I don't get that. Okay, that's me. And everybody needs to hear every now and then, "Thou art the man." But this is where the fight is. This is the fight. And I missed it. And God navigated a kid born to a 15-year-old mom with porn hang-ups and all of kinds of other past issues and maladies and anxieties, who used to weigh 400 pounds, somehow put that young man, who's not as young anymore, on one of the largest platforms in the country. I'm guessing he didn't do it for me to be some form of technocratic, cold-hearted, let's just analyze everything like it's a math formula. Sometimes the parson just rips off the cloak and there's a Minuteman jersey underneath and says, "Someone else is preaching next Sunday, I'm running to the battle." Sometimes we just need to do that. And this was it. And I missed it. I'm not going to miss it anymore. I was put on earth for fights like this. I was given a particular set of skills and talents I can't account for, I have no training for, that I've just kind of had my entire life for moments like this. Doors have just opened up for me. My career has just advanced in ways where I've literally never applied for a job once that I've gotten in this business. Once. They've all just been given to me by people I didn't previously know, including this one. And it wasn't to stand on the sidelines and technocratically, moralistically analyze everything. It was to get in the fight. And so for me personally, that's what this near miss heard round the world means for me. In a few moments, we're going to have a little roundtable conversation. We'll let Todd and Aaron and our good friend Bob Vander Plaats will join us as well on the heels of his leadership summit. These three will talk about what they thought the day of and have thought in the days since and how it's impacted them. And then next hour, I'm going to lay out what I think this means in terms of the big picture, both spiritually and politically. First, I'll tell you about our friends over Real Estate Agents I Trust. If you are in these unprecedented times.
Bing, 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 bing.
Yes, indeed. If you are thinking of getting into the Let's Go Brandon real estate market, first of all, pour one out. Right? You are way braver than me. All right. Donald Trump standing up with half his ear blown off and bleeding, yelling fight looks at you and says, "Really?" Okay. But anyway, if that's you, all right, make sure you go in with a real estate agent that you can trust. Where are you going to find them? The name says it all. realestateagentsitrust.com, again, is the website you want to go to. We'll refer you to an agent with a fully verified, validated track record of success. Otherwise, we would not list them. And quite often, they're going to come from right here in this very audience, in fact, so that you know you have a common value system and poor broadcasting taste in common. All right, realestateagentsitrust.com is where you want to go, whether you want to go somewhere across town or you need to go somewhere across the country. We'll hook you up with an agent that can get you to the end game you're looking for, success, at realestateagentsitrust.com. More in a moment. Stay tuned. Hey, I want to let you know up here real quick. Today's another reason it's a big day on the show. We are live on X for the first time ever right now. So at Steve Deace Show, is that how you watch us on X, Aaron?
Yep. Go to just your profile. There's a tweet there, and retweet it if you can. But yeah, there's just a regular tweet with the live broadcast embedded.
So we're trying to do this something new. We're even launching a new YouTube channel as well, because we just simply got so much censorship over the last few years. There was nothing we could do to resurrect that channel. So we just made the decision here, us and the Blaze, to completely start a new YouTube channel as well. If you want to go subscribe to that, what's that called again, Aaron?
At Deace Show. So it's going to be hard to find, I think, at the very beginning. We just launched it over the weekend, but the handle for the YouTube channel, the new YouTube channel, at Deace Show.
And for you podcasters, and there's a lot of you, by the time you listen, we'll probably, later today, they'll probably be ready to go. All right. So at Deace Show is the brand new channel on YouTube. We are live right now. There may be more Blaze shows that decide to do this. They were kind of the guinea pig, just like we were the first time we merged with CRTV. We were the guinea pig for that. So we're the guinea pig for this. They love making us the guinea pig around here. All right. So welcome if you're watching us right now live on X. All right. So I laid out how the near miss heard round the world impacted me over the weekend. And next hour, I'm going to talk about what I think this means moving forward in terms of, for the country, I think, in terms of spiritually. I think there are 4 key areas where if you're a prayer warrior, you are desperately needed right now. I'm going to lay those out next hour, as well as what I think the political fallout of all of this will be for the foreseeable future. But for this hour, we're kind of focused on where we were when this happened, what we thought this may cause when this happened, and what we have all heard about the events that transpired here, and think about them as well. And let's start with our good friend Bob Vander Plaats. Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you. And Steve, as you know, we had our big leadership summit over the weekend. You spoke at it Friday. Ironically or prophetically, I think the leadership summit talked a lot about the need for spiritual revival, light and darkness, good versus evil, the need to rebuild the walls. If you go into, the book of Nehemiah, and how that is transferred and translated into today. But Steve, after a leadership summit and after doing some things with donors that were still in town, those kind of things, but I went on a bike ride. I do a lot of biking. So I went on a bike ride, got done with the bike ride. I was sitting home on my deck, and all of a sudden I got notified by text. In case you haven't heard, we believe the president has just been shot. And so right away I went on X. Now,
can I pause you? Did you know if it was Biden or Trump? Because we're in this unique scenario we haven't seen in this country for over a century, where former presidents are running against each other.
They did say Trump was hosting a rally, and that the former president looks like he'd been shot. So I was alerted by one of my team members right away. So I went on X, started to look at the feeds that were going on, and it just dominated the feeds. Went in to watch Fox News, and obviously it was all on. And I got to tell you, Steve, my first impulse was, thank God that bullet did not hit the intended target. Did not, this could have been way different. This could have been catastrophic.
Franz Ferdinand level moment.
And you could see a country just in civil war. Because the heat is elevated to such a degree right now, it doesn't take much. And to see it, graze his ear, and to see him come up with his fist pumping, fight. I mean, what a remarkable moment for him, adrenaline running through his body, but also a sign, I think, to the supporters, to the watching world, I'm okay. It's a little bit like George W. Bush on 9/11. I'm not staying in Omaha. I'm going to the White House. I'm going to let the world know I'm okay. We're okay. And I think Trump was trying to give that same signal. And so praise God, it was a graze. Praise God that, most everybody's okay. I feel awful for the family with the firefighter who was killed, as well as the other ones who were injured, and even all the attendees of that rally. They are going to remember that for a long time. I guarantee there'll be a little PTSD that sets in as well because of this.
Todd?
Listen, you know how much time I spend talking about how we aren't cutting it, and when I'm talking about sports bros or lightsabers or video game, we're not up to this challenge. And so here in this moment, while I don't regret a single bit of my analysis where I've been on anything before this regarding Trump or the state of the culture, this moment, suddenly, if we want to take it, we have the high ground. That's the whole point of this. And yes, because none of us saw these last 3 weeks coming, I believe 3 weeks from now, we can be looking at this in a much different light as well. That's how fickle and ridiculous and demonic these times are here. But I think it's incumbent upon us, and as brave as I think what Trump did, Steve's more right about that part than anything. I'm not rallying to him because of him. I'm rallying to him because of us. I feel like pre-COVID, going back, once transgender, remember I always used to say about that, this is happening now. Once you believe in this, you'll believe in anything. And it's been dark, dark, dark. And we've been doing trench warfare and hardly made 2022 happen when we thought we were going to come back. And maybe this is another 2022 again in some way if we don't take advantage of it. I'm going to do my part to try to take advantage of it. I'm going to say thank you, Donald Trump, in that moment for having the courage to stand up and rallying us, because that is a big part of the job of any presidency. Now I'm going to stand my post. And if you sell out, then I'll go somewhere else again. But I'm going to say thank you in this moment, Donald Trump, and anybody else who will stand with them, even in our disagreements, to say, all of us here in this moment, we can do better. And that's no different a message than I've been giving you for before this happened 48 hours ago. And that's true.
So going into the weekend, Steve was, yes, I'm voting for Donald Trump. Todd was a definite maybe. I was a definite no. And we watched an age of violence, in my opinion, an age of violence being unleashed upon this country. We missed that by an inch. An inch. That's my opinion. You might have a different opinion. But whatever you thought the odds of a hot civil war breaking out, they doubled if that shot is an inch to the right. Whether you thought it was 2%, it's 4%, 25%, 50%. 50%, we wake up on Sunday in a different reality. I can't just watch that reality and be completely nonplussed by that, completely unbothered by that. I can't with a clear conscience. Something, we were this close from waking up in a completely different reality on Sunday morning. And say what you want to about Donald Trump's character or lack thereof. And maybe as much as anybody in this room right now, I've been critical of the president's character or lack thereof. But in that moment, this is not bravado. This is not rhetorical flourish. This is not bombast. That was bravery in that moment. It's something that you can't rehearse. It's something you can't fake.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
And that spoke to me. And so I was a definite no, although I didn't really care. I am voting for Donald Trump now. I am. With the realization in 2 weeks, we could be having a completely different conversation again. This is the vessel. This is the vessel that we have to avoid unpeaceable means of settling our differences. And I want to make something really clear as well. We're running out of time to do that peaceably.
Yes, we are.
We're running out of time. It's not me saying that. It's them. It's them. Every time it's the shooter. Every time you see another celebrity come out like Jack Black at a concert, I think in Canada, and say, I wish the shooter hadn't missed. Every time they're telling you, you're running out of time.
I mean, we were about a decade ago, a guy who had been radicalized by groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center to believe you were some form of Nazi hateful bigot if you thought the 7,000-year-old definition of marriage still applied, walked in, named Floyd Corkins, walked in, loaded for bear, with the intent of assassinating everybody in the Washington, D.C. offices of the Family Research Council. If I remember right, hit one security guard. That same security guard thankfully was able to take him down, though, before he unloaded his payload on everybody else. And when they went and searched his car, there was all kinds of Southern Poverty Law Center and other kind of propaganda there, all kinds of anti-Chick-fil-A propaganda, if I recall. He is sitting in a prison cell in D.C. right now. He is the first and still only person in American history to be prosecuted and convicted of domestic terrorism in the nation's capital, ever.
And his backpack was filled with Chick-fil-A sandwiches, because for every one of his victims, he was going to put a Chick-fil-A
That's right,
sandwich
I forgot about that part.
on top of
like
the
it's
victim.
a calling card.
As a calling card. But if you're going to stand for biblical marriage, then this is what I'm going to do to you. You will be made to care, is what he was saying.
A few years later, Steve Scalise was mulling over whether to go play in this silly, stupid softball game in suburban D.C. If his wife says, stay home, or I need you here, or he gets called to some leadership meeting, he's the only member of GOP leadership that was played on this game, so he brought the only security detail there. If he doesn't go for any myriad of reasons, he would not have time to go to a softball game, family or professional. Rand Paul, start naming names, are probably dead out there on that field. And I was on CNN the very next Sunday, remember, on their signature CNN show the very next Sunday, talking about this was a potential Franz Ferdinand moment. That was 7 years ago, all right? And then there's everything else that we've been through here in the last few years, Russian collusion and everything else, all the lawfare. Let's take pro-life women, grandmothers, and put them in prison forever. Hey, if you're if you're a Christian business owner, 50-year-old guy, and you wear a MAGA hat and you sit in Nancy Pelosi's seat on January 6th, your life is over, to the D.C. gulag with you, all right? And now there's this, and Aaron is correct. The labor and the contractions metaphor that you drew in the opening is cash money. Absolutely, we are running short on time. Okay,
and I think the part of that, Steve, is, I think Todd alluded to it, about capitalizing on the moment. One is, because of that miss, it was a worst case scenario for the left, for the Democrats, whoever they are. It was a worst case scenario, because all of a sudden everybody's rallying towards Donald Trump. I believe he wins in a landslide today, and that there'd be a huge mandate all the way down ballot. That's today, I believe that. Trump saying, listen, man, I'm trashing the speech I was going to give at the Republican convention. It's going to be recast now about how we bring people together, about timeless principles, timeless precepts. And it's a little bit, I mean, when I saw that happen, and in the aftermath, the thing about Reagan, when Reagan got the assassination attempt, but he survived, he talked about only God alone spared him. And because of only God alone sparing him, all the rest of his days would be for God alone. Donald Trump said in his truth post, make no mistake, only God alone spared my life. Now, my prayer, not that my hope is found in Donald Trump, but my prayer is that Trump says the rest of my days are for God alone. That's what we need. God has brought revival through kings before. That Donald Trump leading with that kind of boldness, that kind of courage, but also a kind of humility and oneness in spirit and oneness in truth to say, this is where we're going. That has a chance to really heal a nation.
In the 4 minutes we have left, thoughts on, we're sitting here and it's 2 days later, no social media profile of the shooter, no motive established yet. Something tells me, if this was a grandmother praying outside of a Planned Parenthood in Tennessee, Quantico would have everything you'd ever want to know about said elderly woman as we speak. Somehow we found, the spirit of the age found the only 20-year-old male in America that doesn't have a social media presence to fire on a president of the United States. He goes building to building, shimmies up a wall. We're going to talk about this with a former Marine sniper in the overtime today, by the way, who there's a lot of notes from former military in my inbox that are like, I'm smelling BS here, okay? But just thoughts on the incident itself and what we do or do not know up until this point of time. Bob, quickly with you.
Well, I would say there's a lot of questions. There's the questions about how in the world is that building not covered in the preliminary walkthrough stuff, and people saying you need to have an eye on that. How is he able to shimmy up on a roof, and people saying that you got somebody going up on a roof with a gun and nobody's paying attention to it? How's he able to get off that many shots? Nobody knew where this guy came. There's a lot of questions. I go back to what I wrote, Steve. You saw it on Sunday. Hopefully this is a Romans 8:28 moment. Whatever they intended for evil, God can and will use for good. That is my hope, and that's my prayer.
Todd?
Trust the experts, Steve. Listen, people watching this should be very uncomfortable. This is why I'm actually more hopeful than I've been in a long time. We just walk around so sedated, so damn comfortable. And people have got to look at this and how are we this incompetent? Because that was at least a level of incompetence that you cannot expect from people doing that job, no matter who they're covering for. And if you're finally awake to that, maybe you're willing to be awake to some other things. The fact that people might be uncomfortable gives me great, great hope.
There are no benign, innocent explanations from top to bottom, left to right with what happened. There are none. Sorry. This is a colossal failure. A colossal failure of security. And that's the best, that's the most sanitized explanation I can give. This was just a colossal failure. It's an embarrassment, really.
And that's just not Aaron, Todd, and Steve's assessment. That is what you're saying. A lot of experts are saying, what a colossal failure.
I mean, we all know that Fox News views themselves as the Overton window for us on the right. They've had a guy on, former Special Forces, on the last 2 days. Corey Mills, I think is his name. I mean, they're letting him have a platform to question all of this. And normally they're the ones that don't like people like us questioning things like this. And they're actually taking the crowbar to the Overton window on this.
Well, this was also in broad daylight. And if your only saving grace is the president survived it, well, the only reason the president survived it is he moved his head at a certain point. If he doesn't move his head, who knows what happens?
Bob, thank you very much. By the way, people want to see any video real quick of the Leadership Summit?
Yeah, the Family Leadership Summit. Go to thefamilyleader.com, thefamilyleader.com. If they're not posted up today, it will be soon. It'll be all the videos, your speech included, will be up there. It was a great summit. And again, you put into context what happened on Saturday, probably prophetically placed.
All right, when we come back, I want to take a big picture look at where we are in the aftermath of what happened, the near miss heard around the world on Saturday, and then we're going to talk about the political fallout of it as well. That'll be coming up here in just a few moments here on the show. How's the thing going on X? How are we doing? Is it going
really well? Really well.
All right,
we've got an old computer here that's running the stream, and it's doing really well.
It's hanging in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see 7 people tuned in.
Well, what'll happen is the better shows in the Blaze will get a great computer. We're the guinea pig. All right, we'll come back. Hour 2 is next. All right, back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, podcast, and X. So I see thousands of you are watching us right now on X. Hello to you. And if enough of you tune in, who knows, you might get to see almost every other show on Blaze TV every day live on X as well, as we are trying to come up with more and more ways here to get around all of the big tech censorship. That's why last year the Blaze took a big bite out of our own budget and went to a subscription model at theblaze.com on the news and opinion side of things in the written form, because we just got tired of dealing with censorship from Google AdSense and everything else. So we just said, we'll just go directly to you instead. And that's why we do things like we're doing right now on X. So hopefully this is the start of a beautiful friendship. It's why we're launching a brand new YouTube channel for our show now. Deace Show is where you want to go on YouTube. Deace Show. Subscribe today. We're trying to reboot the whole channel with a brand new one. We just got too many strikes the last few years for telling too much truth. There was just no hope. You know, and the shows that were that kind of started off, I think of Crowder, Pool, you know, the people that kind of built like a lot of their platforms from YouTube inside, you know, starting with YouTube and then built out from there. They still face a lot of censorship too. I think, didn't Bongino get outright banned from YouTube? I think
something like that.
Yeah. So, but if you started your thing in the years before YouTube started cracking down, they're giving those people a little bit more leeway because they're kind of grandfathered in and have huge followings. If you're trying to build a YouTube channel now in the last few years, as we have been, by telling that kind of truth, there's no place for you. And I think, Aaron, how many strikes and everything else have you had to go through and navigate over the last 4 years? Too many. Too many is the answer. So we all just got together, us and the Blaze, just said, you know what, let's just hit Control-Alt-Delete, try a whole new channel. You can subscribe to that today at Deace Show on YouTube. Look it up at Deace Show on YouTube. You can also like, rate, subscribe, 5-star review. Let us know if you love the show by giving us those things, particularly if you're on the podcast side of things. Leave us a 5-star review. Thank you for each and every one of those. Hit subscribe or follow if you're on iTunes, and that way every time we do a new show, it will show up in your feed. And if you want to follow us on social media, you can like us on Facebook, MeWe and Gab. Follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Getter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. And this portion of the show brought to you by our friends at First Cup Coffee Company. They are the Christian-owned Patriot Coffee Company who have the same core values of faith, family, and freedom that you do. And they also, though, do that while making some tremendous coffee. Just ask Aaron. He loves it. They've got a flavor for every freedom-loving American. What I love, too, is their flavors represent a founding piece of Americana. There's the Boston Common, for example. That's the first park in America. The John Hancock, from the guy who is the first signature on the Declaration, who signed it so big so that even Mad King George with his failing eyesight could see it all the way across the channel. The Lexington, named after the Battle of Lexington, the shot heard round the world, and so many more. You can get involved with them right now. It ships to you within days of being roasted to make it as fresh as possible. When you subscribe and save, all subscriptions get free shipping. You get discounts as well. firstcup.com, promo code DEACE. Save an additional 15% on 2 bags delivered every 60 days, plus free shipping if you want to double up. Maybe you're a few cup a day drinker. All right. Firstcup.com, use the promo code DEACE, save an additional 10% off your order with you when you do. And if you subscribe, you'll get an additional 10% for the life of your subscription. Firstcup.com, use the promo code DEACE at firstcup.com. All right. As I'm discussing more big picture thoughts, can you guys, if the announcement of who the running mate is happens, give me a breaking news. Hey,
Absolutely.
Pipe down, Deace. Let's get into it. Okay. All right. So I want to discuss the aftermath of what occurred, the near miss heard around the world. And I want to specifically talk to the prayer warriors in our audience, even though this is for everybody. But if, like me, you think we have been watching spiritual warfare play itself out in the seen realm, the unseen realm, the hidden realm, is spilling over into the seen realm in America over the last few years, then prayer is a valuable weapon. And a good friend of mine, Cecil Steinmetz, I saw him send something out to me on X over the weekend that I wanted to start there and echo. Pray for Donald Trump personally. 43 years ago, Ronald Reagan, after he was nearly assassinated, gave a new and full rededication of his life to Christ. And I can't even imagine how powerful it would be if Donald Trump did the same thing. I was watching a message my buddy Pastor Jack Hibbs out at Chino Hills Calvary Chapel in California gave, where he called on Donald Trump to, now is the time to bow the knee, to fully commit your life to Christ, to give your life to the Lord, who spared your life. And I couldn't agree more. What a testimony that would be, and right at the time that we need that kind of a leader. What a Romans 8:28 moment that would be. And I think you need to consider, when someone goes through a near-death experience, it does, at least for a time anyway, it changes your perspective. I have experience with this myself many years ago. I nearly died in a car wreck, wasn't wearing my seatbelt. They told me I should be dead. And I can look back on it now. I was 22 at the time. I went from most likely to succeed in high school to flunking out of college. I'm working at a temp agency. Basically, I'm a loser. I have no other, I'm a vat of wasted potential, a loser. And I can look back on it now and see that moment was the first step that God used to get me to where I am now. I thought the statement Donald Trump released yesterday morning was maybe the best statement he's released in his entire political ascendancy. And you can tell by the verbiage, by the way, because we used to joke when he was president, all right, the staff wrote that one, right? All right. No, that's his lingo. He wrote that with his own hand. There was a level of humility there. And humility, by the way, a lot of people think humility is piety. I'm terrible. I'm worthless. That's not actually what it means. And humility in the biblical worldview means that it has nothing to do with confidence, actually. It means understanding that God is God and you are not. And therefore you come with limitations. Doesn't mean you can't be confident in the things you're great at, but you come with limitations because God is God and you are not. And that can cause you to reassess things. I think of Trump scrapping his convention speech and saying, hey, I want to focus on unifying the country. No way that happens if he doesn't get nearly assassinated. He stands up there and gives a typical Trump bombastic speech that punches the Democrats right between the legs. And, you know, most of us love it. And the rest of America's like, oh, man, I'm just so tired of the divisiveness. I think it's brilliant. Spend all week. Let the other speakers crush the Democrats. Joe Biden's approval rating, guys, is approaching George W. Bush when he left office. Do you think the majority of American people do not know Joe Biden is bad at this? They know. Okay? You know, what they need is a president. And right now, there's only two people that realistically can provide that for us. One, if you consider that Joe Biden can't realistically, provide anything at this stage, sadly, of his life. Except a dementia PSA. So I think that's one example of what I mean, how you reassess things when you have a moment like that. I mean, how many times have we seen Trump? Trump is normally the guy that says, hey, I mean, I would imagine he loves this. He has the same love of the untouchables that you do, Todd. I would imagine the Chicago way is like a creed, okay, to Donald Trump, like a movie quote and speech he's got memorized somewhere. Okay, he's not typically the now's the time to really take the high road guy. He's not typically that guy. We've all gotten a real good look at him over the last 10 years. He's not typically that guy, right?
Right.
I think when you face an atypical experience like a near-death experience, you start reassessing things. Now, those things can be temporary. They may not last. But at the very least, I like it. I like it. Give me the fight on one hand, and then give me the now it's time to step up and be a leader of men. And a leader of a nation on the other. I thought that was truly inspiring and presidential. So pray for him. Number 2, pray for your normie friends and neighbors. Okay? Because this needs to be a moment. As Aaron was just articulating, kind of playing off of what you said, Todd. You expressing your frustration. We've been too comfortable to not see all these signs. Aaron then, adding to the context of that there's only so many signs you are given before the signs of the times runs out of times. And I mean, that wasn't just a shot across Trump's bow. That was a shot across the entire free world's bow. And like I mentioned, Floyd Corkins last hour. I reset what happened at the DC softball game several years ago. I don't know how many more warning shots you get. I just know that you don't get them into perpetuity. Sooner or later, the day comes, they're not warnings anymore, but you were warned. So pray for your normie friends and family members that they got the picture here of how close we really are to losing this greatest experiment in human civilization God has ever permitted since the fall of his creation. I didn't even bring up the attempted character assassination of Brett Kavanaugh. The other rhetoric that the spirit of the age has injected into the water table and the soul of the Democratic Party, as Obama's former pastor once said, it is coming home to roost. It's coming home to roost. You can only inject this level of venom so long before it becomes embraced as a worldview. I think The previous generation of Democrats, the Clintons, the Kerrys, the Pelosi's, cynically thought they could unleash these people to destabilize us so they could gain power, and Nancy could make sure to keep building her stock portfolio, and the Clintons could make sure to keep building their foundation. You see what I'm saying? I think a lot of it was a scam. Now, they're more liberal than us, but, you know, it's like Hillary once said, the reason I could never beat Bernie Sanders in Iowa is I'm not a socialist, I'm a capitalist. Don't get me wrong, they're more liberal than us, but they're not communists. So they thought they could unleash some communists in order to destabilize us. Well, now a new generation is taking over. And these aren't just talking points to them. It's a worldview. They've internalized it. And as Aaron pointed out, we have been running out, and we've been saying on this show for the last few years, we are running out of time to aggressively but peaceably use the political process to meaningfully push back on this. So pray for your normie friends and family members that they finally see what time it is, and then pray for one another. Now is the time to overcome our fear of our woke wives, men. Now is the time to overcome our own cowardice. Now is the time, well, I'm afraid I might lose a job I will hate. Hate losing the country you'll love even more. So you might have been thinking before Saturday, you know, I don't know, I was thinking about running for school board. You are. You're filing the paperwork next week. We just told you. You're doing it. You know, I thought, I'm really torn. Should I push back on this DEI hearing at work? You are. Tomorrow, in fact. First thing. We will get as much of this demonic tyranny as we tolerate. So that means we need to start tolerating a lot less of it. Third, pray for the safety of this country. You know, I said after the June 27th debate, when making the case that we had to invoke the 25th Amendment against Biden, our enemies also, they knew the president's incapacitated, but now they know that the country knows. And they knew the guy that signed Abrahamic Accords and dropped Moabs was going to come back soon. So they might accelerate some of their plans, realizing that the window could be closing here. Well, don't you guys think that they've got to know all the more how much the country's going to rally to Trump now after what just occurred? And the world has been less safe since June 27th. We're now in a world where NATO decides, well, we're not going to quite cross Putin's red line for a nuclear exchange, but we're going to come right up close to it by inviting Zelensky to NATO and offering him everything other than official membership. And then in the midst of that, so you're like, okay, you know, they're kind of calling Putin's bluff, stepping at Putin. And then we bring up the feeble codger to call Zelensky President Putin. And that just blows the whole thing they were probably trying to pull off there. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You were trying to make a show of force and everything else. And yeah, we've kept Ukraine afloat all this time. We'll bring them all the way in if you don't back down. And here's Joe Biden to refer to Zelensky as Putin because he's got the cognitive score of a gnat. The world is still less safe than it was even if before the shot was taken. Because our enemies are being reminded repeatedly their time is almost up. It will take divine favor for one of them not to do something. It's July 15th. It will take divine favor and protection for one of them not to do something between now and the next inauguration. Not even the election, but the inauguration. Remember, the Iranians, some of you may be too young to remember this. Todd and I do. We were kids coming of age watching this. The Iranians held on to those hostages all the way until Reagan was taking the oath of office. They held out the entire time. And then finally waited to see, is America really going to put a Cold Warrior in there? Oh, yeah? Okay, fine. We'll give the hostages back. They held out to the last possible minute. Don't be surprised. Don't sleep easy until the dude takes the oath of office. Like the night before. You want to the guy, you know Trump's coming in, you want to destabilize his presidency? Maybe North Korea, October 7th, South Korea, the day before the inaugural, and throws everything into, you see what I'm saying? We're dealing with true spiritual warfare here. And it'll be a miracle of God if someone doesn't do something, one of our enemies, to China, Taiwan, pick something. Strategic nuke in Ukraine, pick something. It'll be a miracle of God if one of our enemies does not attempt to take advantage of this and destabilize the situation all the more before the new administration comes in. And then finally, we can't ever forget to do this. And Jesus stressed this, because such as once were all of us. Pray for our enemies. The Democrats and the left have done a lot of mocking of thoughts and prayers recently and said, we need action. We'll politely tell them this is your chance to set the example. Your party and your media industrial complex needs to seriously self-reflect upon the tactics you've engaged here politically. They have made every form of citizenship and political discourse in America Chernobyl levels of toxic. If you disagree, we get to censor you, dehumanize you. You're literally Hitler, a fascist, a Nazi. You could not possibly disagree with me for any reasons. And really the Obama era brought this in. I remember being told during the Obama era, I was a racist because I thought it was a bad idea to have more people on food stamps than the population of Spain. Otherwise, anything they're saying right now about unity or tone, if they're not willing to police their own and self-reflect, it's all empty rhetoric. So pray for our enemies that they do, even if, well, Steve, wouldn't that help them? It might help them politically quite a bit. Right now, we're trying. I want to win this election badly. But the reason I want to win this election badly is because I fear if we don't, the country will be further destabilized and maybe to points we can't return from. It would be a good thing for the country, for the Democratic Party to return to kind of where it was around 1999, 2000. I mean, I don't know if Russia's archives are still up somewhere. I was talking last hour, wouldn't it be trite to go back and listen to the stuff we complained about during the Trump presidency and look back on it now and think, what parts of my anatomy would I not give to go back to arguing about that stuff? Could you imagine listening to Russia shows in the early to mid 90s about the Clinton presidency and you're thinking, man, those were the days. Wouldn't you love to go back to that? You're thinking, those were good times.
Marginal tax rates.
Yes. How many criminals we're going to execute? How many people we should throw off of welfare? Okay. What the top marginal tax rate? Who should get a tax cut?
Clinton, a Democrat, Defense of Marriage. Yes. I mean, good grief.
Guy Long. My goodness, those debates seem almost trite and innocent. And we would listen to Rush like opening our spleens over this stuff. And now it is literally like we're fighting orcs. It would be a good thing for the country. Maybe they'd beat us in more elections. It doesn't look like they need much help most of the time. Maybe they'd be more successful, but it would be much better for the country overall. Because this toxicity level, man, is about the Chernobyl. It'd be nice to bring it down to a reasonable pitch. So that our kids and grandkids, your kids that are grown up and about to leave the home, my kids that are grown up and leaving the home, wouldn't have to worry that at any given moment, there might be a Franz Ferdinand moment that just blows the top off this thing, a powder keg. And if they don't take this moment to self-reflect, then they've made it very clear that this isn't about e pluribus unum for them anymore. It's just about power, as many of us have suspected. But let's pray for them and not hope for the worst. But let's be prepared for it if the worst is what we get. So that's what I think about this spiritually, gentlemen. What are your thoughts? We'll talk more about this politically next segment.
Well, yeah, pray indeed should be at the top of any Christian's list on this front, but praying not so much for outcomes, but for truth, beauty, courage, the things that we should have aspired to all along as citizens of a once great country. I mean, we have abandoned our post as citizens. That is what got us here more than anybody else. I have blame to go around for a lot of evil people. And as I said, among those prayers, some should be imprecatory. Absolutely. But really, when Steve says we will only get the evil we're willing to tolerate, man, he is so over the target on that. That's why this moment is an opportunity for awakening. I don't know if it's happened. And if it didn't happen, then woe to us. And we're even deeper trouble than I thought we were. And I thought we were in quite a degree of trouble. But hopefully we're waking up. Hopefully we're realizing we've got to do something about this. And so, yes, that must, since we're dealing with true evil, it must start with prayer.
Agreed. And from September to May of this year, September of last year to May of this year, in the country of Mexico, they had elections there. 34 assassinations. 34 against candidates or aspiring candidates. Mexico's not nice this time of year. It's not nice any time of year. I think at a visceral level, I pray that there are still enough Americans out there who recognize we can do better than this. We can. Regardless of what you think across the political spectrum, we can do better than that. We can do better than Mexico. We can do better than that. It's a low bar, but we can do better than that. I'm just speaking, again, within myself. I just could not, and I don't want this to bind others' consciences as well, but I could not, with a clear conscience, just continue to let my personal disdain sometimes, well-earned though it is sometimes, cloud what really happened the other day. I couldn't do that with a clear conscience. And so I pray that those who are of our bent as well understand that, even if they don't come to the same conclusion that I do, or I am right now, or that Todd is coming to right now, I pray they understand that. And at the end of the day, we've had so many opportunities over the past 10 years to really be confronted with what we're up against and where we are headed. With all of those opportunities, you mentioned some of those. The character assassination of Brett Kavanaugh. Well, that's inside baseball stuff. COVID. Well, we didn't know what we didn't know. Mistakes were made. Fog of war. Things along those lines. What happened over the weekend in Pennsylvania? Bullets were literally flying. They were literally flying through the air. Mm-hmm. I know our friend Jesse Kelly doesn't like the use of the word literally, but I think it fits here. They were flying in our country because of politics. If that's not a moment to reflect, to show some humility across the board, I don't know what is. I think we've seen a little bit of that from the Democrats. It was reported... Like
pulling Morning Joe off the air, for example?
Morning Joe off the air. It was reported by a few outlets over the weekend that the Biden campaign is suspending advertising. Maybe those are a few little
as opposed to June 28th posting on Twitter that Trump is a threat to democracy. Joe Biden did that.
Maybe a few signs that, hey, let's just take a step back into the shrubs real quick. I hope that's the case.
By the way, do you have that tweet, Aaron?
Yeah.
I want to show the audience this. The president, or whoever's more likely handling the president's account. This was the day after the debate. The president tweeted, "Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. If you believe this, why would you not act? If you had the means to do so and believe someone was a threat to your family and everything they stood for in the immediate, Todd, would you not act? What kind of a man would not act?"
Yeah, why would you? If he's really Hitler, why were you saying, "Gosh, I'm really calling up. I'm glad you're okay, Donald"?
Yeah, I'm glad literally Hitler made it out alive. Jack Black's actually being intellectually consistent. It's everybody else who's not here.
And you can't accept this, and you can't expect it when now, Psaki and Goebbels Tapper, they try to pivot. No. That must stop. Forever. Jobs should be lost. A genuine purge of... Yes. See, this is the part where people are going to get it wrong. Yes, let's come together. But there is evil by definition, it has no intention of coming together.
No.
That
and it
must
has to be purged.
Be rooted out.
I'm going to get to that here next segment when we talk about the political stakes here, because you're exactly right. But I have a question. The Supreme Court just ruled that presidents have limited immunity when it comes to official acts. Is inciting the attempted assassination of your opponent, would that be an official act? I mean, this is cancerous. Absolutely cancerous. And next segment, when we talk about the politics of this, I'm going to get into what that means. But first, a word about our friends over at Hillsdale College. I know a lot of us can go back and trace that the university system is one of the hubs and sources of much of the rot gut infesting our culture today. But Hillsdale is still on the narrow road. From its founding all the way back in 1844, it's remained true to its mission of offering the kind of education needed to preserve the blessings of liberty. And those blessings can be traced back to the Declaration of Independence. And so at a time when the spirit of the age is prompting folks to reject those principles of liberty and equality, it's right when we need to remind ourselves, and especially our children, that those principles are the source of America's exceptionalism and therefore a treasure to be preserved. So I invite you today to go to daceforhillsdale.com, F-O-R, daceforhillsdale.com. Watch Hillsdale's educational and inspiring video there, and you're also going to receive a free commemorative copy of the Declaration of Independence from my friends at Hillsdale as well. But don't delay. This is for a limited time right now at daceforhillsdale.com, F-O-R. This is on behalf of Hillsdale College. Independence Month this is now. We going to have Pride Month. Can we have Independence Month maybe? Is that all right? Liberty Month?
Be a good start.
Indeed. daceforhillsdale.com. Again, that is daceforhillsdale.com. Real quick on the running mate thing, I saw someone post that all of the various names of Trump's potential running mates, only one of them actually point to Trump's campaign website, and it's Trump Burgum. No, I don't know what that means. It could just mean that the others haven't been transitioned or anything yet. I don't know. Okay.
I also just saw somebody report as well, because there's been video of a motorcade guarding J.D. Vance from his home. I saw somebody point out that after the assassination attempt, Ohio's governor was actually the one who ordered
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
protection.
thank you, because I retweeted that. I wasn't aware, so thank you for that point of order. Okay. All right, when we come back, now the political fallout of the near miss heard around the world. We'll get into that here in a moment. Hey, are you having a hard time sleeping or staying asleep at night? Because poor sleep can negatively impact pretty much everything. On the other hand, when you're sleeping well, you perform your best at pretty much everything, mentally and physically. That's why we want to introduce you to our friends over at Beam's Dream Powder. It is a science-backed, not the science. All right, we don't back the science trademark. If there's anything from COVID I miss, it's the snotty uses of the science trademark. That's maybe the only thing from COVID I missed was using that little.
There were moments.
Yeah, there were moments that were a little respite in between the dismal. All right, no, this isn't the science backed. It's a science backed healthy hot cocoa for sleep. And here's the key thing. I know what you're thinking. Hey, man, you're the one that has lost 35 pounds and doing 75 hard, and you're telling people to just take 20 grams of sugar before bed. What's that? No sugar added. No added sugars here. All right. So that's key as well. Just mix Dream into hot water or milk. You can froth, enjoy right before bed, and you can find out why so many national media outlets, some of the world's top athletes and business professionals are swearing by Beam. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time right now when you go to Shop Beam, BEAM, shopbeam.com/Steve, and use the code Steve at checkout for 40% off. Shopbeam.com/Steve. Use the code Steve for 40% off to get the big discount at shopbeam.com/Steve. All right. Let's talk about, as we close this out here today, what I think will be some of the political fallout from the near miss heard around the world over the weekend. And I want to start with Trump himself because right now Donald Trump has as much political capital as he may ever have. Ever. He has it right now. I mean, the images of his bloody defiance to the spirit of the age. I mean, this is some of the most iconic patriotic iconography this country has produced. It's not some, it's the most since 9/11. And I don't think it ever made it into the movie, but there was a great line in the trailer to Batman Begins when Ra's al Ghul, well, he doesn't know. Bruce Wayne doesn't know that he's Ra's al Ghul yet, okay? But when Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul says to Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne, if you make yourself something more than a man, you become something else entirely. And he says in the trailer clip, what? A legend, Mr. Wayne. In many respects, Donald Trump, for the first time, outside of his most devoted following, transcended himself as a political figure and became small L legend with that moment. And that is where that political capital is coming from. And you know, we have remarked throughout the course of this year that it's been fascinating to watch the way his campaign has behaved more like Romney 2012 than Trump 2016. Well, let's water down the platform. Well, let's talk about these issues later. Well, I'm pro-life, but we got to win elections, right? We did all those shows all this year, right? Including just like a week ago. Okay.
Yeah, and they weren't wrong.
And they weren't wrong. I agree they were not wrong. But I am confident at least some of that was coming from a place of, I've got to do whatever it takes to win, eke out this close election. Brother, if you're Trump or in his inner sanctum and you're tuned in right now, you have all the clearance from the tower at this moment to be even more based than you were as a bull in a china shop in 2016. I mean, you don't have to be the guy that overturned Roe, that said, I'm going to overturn Roe if elected president. He said that. I'll appoint the justices that overturn Roe. To now being the guy who's like, well, let's argue with my base about what pro-life planks to have in the platform. You don't have to do any of that stuff because for the first time since Donald Trump became a full-time politician, he is a likable, inspirational figure in America as we sit here today on July 15th. Now, I cannot guarantee that that'll be true on August 15th or September 15th or October 15th or the 15th or the 1st or any other date of any month of his likely forthcoming presidency. But it is true on July 15th. It is true now. To a plurality of Americans, Trump is a likable, inspirational, maybe even sympathetic figure. I think it is possible that you will see him have positive favorables for the first time since he became a full-time politician. Take advantage of that capital. Number two, let's talk about the VP. So everyone that knows more about this than me, and I do have some friends high up in Trump world, I don't shake people down for insider info because that puts them in a tough spot. So I mean, you know, people that do a lot of the other podcasts and social media accounts that you folks tuned into us follow. Those people all know more about who the VP will be more than me. And they're all saying it's going to be J.D. Vance. I do think whoever it is, there needs to be a renewed focus. I saw our colleague Oron McIntyre say something about this morning, that there needs to be an heir apparent who's ready to be president. He specifically mentioned his governor, Ron DeSantis. While I would love that, you know, I'm more concerned about the profile than the name, and I've been consistent on that. I've never really lobbied other than Tulsi Gabbard, because I think she comes with a narrative, but I also think she's ready to be president. She served her country. She's been a member of Congress. She's politically experienced. She knows both parties now intimately. I think doesn't mean I think she'd be a good one, but I think she's ready to be one. But I also understand that I once supported a first-term senator like J.D. Vance is now. I worked for him. That's how much. I took a job to work for him to help make him president, and Ted Cruz. Now, you know, Cruz had, you know, a few years ago, J.D. Vance was writing scripts, good ones, but that's what he was doing. A few years before running for president, Ted Cruz was arguing numerous landmark cases before the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, he had worked his way through the process. He didn't just come out of the private sector and immediately run for senator, and now I'm going to be a running mate. That being said, I'm not opposed to saying that J.D. Vance is not ready to be president. I don't like the shift he made on the abortion pill. That was like a week ago, okay? But I do think if you are going to pick him, then at least there needs to be more emphasis on, is he ready to be president day one, if that were to happen? Third, Go ahead.
How far do you think the swing went from this being a pick of importance from an electoral perspective to a governing perspective? Because I think it's huge. I almost don't even care from electoral perspective.
Let me say this. I will say this. Someone I know that knows Tucker Carlson well, and Tucker's supposedly on the inside of this. I don't know. I've not spoken to Tucker in months, but Tucker told a good friend of his, who also happens to be a good friend of mine, that the whole conversation around the running mate discussion changed in the aftermath of the near assassination to who is ready to be president. Good. See, to me, J.D. Vance is your selection if you are looking for someone who's a loyalist to the MAGA brand and wants to carry it on. Okay, like I can completely see why Don Jr. would be in favor of that, because he'll inherit some of this brand, and they don't have a lot of heir apparents. I get that. You know, we talked the whole thing last week about, you know, Trump is a king and kings tend to want their legacies to carry on, right? So that Vance, I would have said before this, Vance is the pick of those who want to make sure the MAGA brand outlives Donald J. Trump, all right? That does not mean he's not ready to be president. So to me, it's not about a name. I'm just saying, if those are what the conversations were prior to the shooting, I do think we need to have some more conversations about, if JD's your guy, to make sure he's ready to be president. Is that what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's not so much about the name to me, but the conversations that are taking place. I think it's very clear. We need to make sure.
Youngkin is surging above Burgum in the betting markets now.
Well, remember I said on Friday that I thought it would be that I thought Youngkin was actually on my finalist list of men that I thought he would pick. Because he's the one guy that flips an electoral college state, and he's ready to be president probably from day one.
But that's my point. That flipping an electoral college state was a way bigger deal when you said it than it is now.
Yep.
Well, maybe not still unimportant, but you were definitely over the target then. I'm just not sure how much it matters anymore.
All right, number 3, and that would also fit someone when Trump said this morning it'll be someone that people haven't been talking about a lot.
That's closer to him than Vance, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I might be one of the few with a large show that was talking about Youngkin on Friday, you know, just 72 hours ago. I don't know. This brings me to my final point. I don't think this can just be a win now. I think it needs to be a mandate. I could make an argument that we are incapable of even arguing at all many of the fundamental political problems facing this country, policy problems, because of the invective, infestation, toxicity that the Democrat media complex has injected into the water table of our politics in the last 2 decades. The gaslighting, the censorship. Every institution they've taken control of in the last 2 decades, guys, has it gained or lost credibility? Lost. Every single one. And we're talking the kinds of institutions that are supposed to keep us e pluribus unum here so we don't shoot each other. They've gotten control of all of those institutions and have desecrated all of their credibilities. All of them. And it makes it very hard to have like meaningful, significant policy discussions. What's a safety net or a welfare state? What is border security? What do we do with the tens of millions of families that we did let here come here illegally? What is the? You see, these are things that require like serious hashing outs, man, and serious debates and blue ribbon commissions, and let's put them. And then here's what we think and what you think, and let's put them before the people and let you guys decide. We don't have almost any of those conversations at all, and a lot of it, frankly, is stymied by the poison of this cancer in their party. You couldn't possibly disagree with us unless you're one of the most terrible people on earth. Racist, misogynist, xenophobic, homophobic, bigot, literally Hitler, Nazi, fascist. Censorship's great. Too bad they missed. to me, I think that is the defining issue of this election now. And I could hear you saying that, Aaron, when you said, hey, this took me from I'm not voting for the guy to I think I have to. I think I have to get in the fight.
I don't really have a choice.
Yes, because because we can't let this continue as a country. It will end us. Whatever you have as problems with Donald Trump, frankly, a lot of them, and I have mine, none of them got cured here in the last 72 hours. But let's be honest. Many of the problems people like us on the right have with Trump are the typical problems you have with politicians. I wish he was more moral. You know? Wish he was better to his wife. I wish he was more trustworthy. Is Donald Trump the first politician we've ever said these things about in our entire lives?
No.
You can survive on the fallacies and the weaknesses of broken vessels in a political system in a free country. What you cannot survive is the weaponization of the institutions against your survival. That's what you can't survive. And they have made it now that families don't even feel like they can talk about this stuff over dinner. You can't wear a shirt or put a sign in your yard. Hell, I went across town Saturday night to go get a Trump sign. First thing, my wife, and if you're married to Steve Deace, by the way, she's a Christian therapist dealing with like people's ultimate brokenness every day, okay? First thing she says to me is, that won't even last the night, right? We can't live like that, guys. We just can't, okay? And they're the ones pushing this. I didn't start out using terms like demonic when you guys lived, Aaron, when you grew up listening to my local show, did we drop demonic on the show all the time?
No.
When you came to work here, Todd, in 2015, was demonic part of our vernacular?
No, you were aggressive, but that one wasn't really part of the arsenal.
It's all in reaction to them. They're pushing this level of toxin. The cancer is there, and now it's spreading, don't get me wrong. We have pointed out we're seeing evidence of godlessness on the right too, okay? But the origin is there, okay? It originates, they're the system of the body where it originates. That's where the tumor is. It's got to be put out. And we need to make it as intolerable for someone to run. Remember when I walked off of CNN when the guy accused me of being the Taliban and everything else? We need to make it as intolerable to have this discourse in the American mainstream as we did 60 years ago when we told Democrats like George Wallace, we're not going to let you just be openly racist anymore.
But the word you said multiple times, you didn't say Trump needs to make. We do.
We do.
We do.
Yes.
We do. The reason this happened is because, let's face it, folks, not only did we not want to say the impolite thing on the sideline, we didn't want to be teachers. We didn't want to be on the school board. We didn't want to be civil servants. We let all of these things, heck, we didn't really want to go to Hollywood and make movies. We left so many things over because we had other things to do. The fact is, we wrote this script ourselves a long, long time ago, and they just said, okay, we'll take it over. This is what we need to analyze everything anew. No one is going to do this for us.
Amen. And in the meantime, he's, you know what? I don't want to be crude, but the guy has demonstrated he's willing to take literal shots for his country at this point. So if Donald Trump is willing to stand up there and take those shots on our behalf so that down here at the level you and I are talking about, we can now confront some of this stuff, God bless him for that, okay?
There was a guy on Twitter who made that point. He basically said, I wasn't a hater, a liker. I could take him or leave in many respects. But I did think most of it was a lot of just showmanship and kind of fake tough guy. He says, that wasn't fake. Whatever that wasn't fake.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if this is how I talk to Ben about politics so far, even though he has no frame of reference, Donald Trump is a liberal who loves his country. I don't think that's up for debate. Joe Biden and the people running the show over there are liberals who hate their country. If that's how you have to rationalize it, if you're doing that, then I don't think, I'm not going to argue with that. Hatred for country or love for country, not because, for whatever reason, we can't coexist with people who want to run the country they hate. We can't do that. Can't. And we're running out of time to peaceably make sure that doesn't happen in the long term.
But it's not just Trump who has the high ground now. This is my fundamental point. You do.
Yes.
Just like you did in 2022 and you passed. Don't pass again. Take the high ground. You're a citizen, aren't you? That's it. That's the bottom line. Here and no frickin' further.
Real quick, Martha McCallum at Fox News is reporting that Burgum, Vance, Rubio, and Youngkin are all in Milwaukee waiting to see if they get the tap on the shoulder from President Trump as of 1:53 Eastern time when we're doing this live. So if you're going to watch the podcast or video archive later, who knows how much later, by then maybe the pick will be made. But remember I said Youngkin would be the pick on Friday if Trump was doing something he doesn't typically do, which is think very strategically. Well, again, guys, have a near-death experience, man. You will reassess some things, especially if you're a guy with a healthy ego and a sense of immortality like Donald Trump, okay? You'll reassess some things. So some things are at least being reassessed whether Youngkin will be the pick or not. We've got an outstanding overtime coming your way. Until then, Romans 8:28.